This escalation that is going on right now has the potential to suck the Americans in, even though the last thing the U.S. wants to do is a military strike.
Look, and is that Israel's goal, in your view, to suck the Americans in? I'm Tracy Freeland, and this is Fast Forward. With me now is my very old friend, author, political scientist, founder of the political risk consultancy, Eurasia Group. You've done so much, Ian Bremmer. Ian is also a columnist for Reuters and has written a terrific piece about the very fraught politics with Iran. Ian, your argument is that the White House, President Obama, could stand to lose a lot more in this standoff than most of us think. Why?
Well, the election is about the economy. And fundamentally, the U.S. Figures are getting better. Most Americans now being asked, 58% think the U.S. is moving in a better direction. That's not where we were 6 months ago. Your major external concern had been that the Eurozone was going to explode. And of course, we're not worried about that now. The ECB stepped in. We think that the worst case scenarios from Europe are basically off. But oil is going up. The price of gas is going up. People are concerned about $5 a gallon gas in the United States. It means food's going up too because you have to pay to bring the food around. That's about Iran. And Obama is now facing an election where the tensions with Iran are higher than they've been at any point in this nuclear crisis that has been burbling up, and it's causing energy prices to rise up. And the Republicans know this. They're using it. They're saying, you know, we're going to have, under a second Obama term, we would have a nuclear Iran, implying that if Romney were to win, we wouldn't. They know that they can triangulate this issue and squeeze Obama really hard. He has a lot to lose if Iran actually blows before the elections.
Does Tehran get this too? Is Tehran using the pressures and the demands of U.S. domestic politics as a bargaining chip?
Not really. In part, they just had parliamentary elections.
So we have to hope they're not watching this because you're going to give them some good ideas?
Oh, I don't think so. I think that if you're in Iran right now, you've really got serious domestic issues you're working out. They've just had a major parliamentary election. There's a big fight between the president and the supreme leader. Supreme leader's just brought his former adversary, Mr. Rafsanjani, back into the government in a senior post. There's a lot of chairs being moved around in Iran, and they're facing a lot of international pressure, a lot of pressure in the Middle East. U.S. elections, from that perspective, are a little bit of a sideline and fairly long-term in terms of how the Iranians are thinking about their watch.
So I take your point. I think it is a very powerful one. But what alternative is there? So yes, Iran probably, if I were in the White House, would be one of the things I am most worried about right now, and one of the things I'm most worried about when it comes to November. Are there better alternatives?
Well, the reason why this is becoming such an urgent issue, in part, is because the Israelis have a drumbeat that's saying, we don't have years. We only have months before the Iranians will hit red lines beyond which we will no longer be able to acceptably wait. So in other words, the implication is before elections, if you don't stop these guys, we're going to have to engage in military strikes. Now look, the Israelis have blustered before, they'll bluster again. They understand that Obama is vulnerable here. They're going to try to maximize what they can get out of the United States using their own leverage. If the Iranians aren't looking at the U.S. elections as a point of policy jujitsu, the Israelis certainly are. And they understand this, right? And for that, Obama has a problem here because Israel loses a lot of leverage after the elections are over, but they have it over the next few months, and so they are screaming bloody murder. They're sort of escalating tit for tat against the Iranians. They want to maximize the pressure and the urgency. And if you've been reading the press recently in the United States, it's almost like there's this underlying sense that conflict with Iran is inevitable. And certainly the phone calls, the emails I've gotten from our top clients have been folks that are quite concerned that, oh my God, are we going to war with Iran? What are the implications of that? What's the worst? How long could the Straits of Hormuz be closed? It's a little breathless. Frankly, I think it's unlikely, but it's now an issue. Me. I've scared you.
Yes, yes.
How have I scared you? Just now?
So, yeah, just now. I mean, listening to you, if I were your client, I'd be calling you up as well. I love this point about Israel and the political jujitsu of the coming U.S. elections. What is Israel trying to get out of the U.S. between now and November?
Well, let's be clear. Israel doesn't want to engage in direct strikes, but they do want the United States to. So,
and they want that to happen before November?
They know that after November, it's going to be maybe harder for them to focus the attention of the United States the way they can right now, right? And so if you're Israel, there's an escalation that's going on. The Israelis are going after Iranian nuclear scientists, and they're doing it very effectively. The Iranians are going after Israeli embassies, Azerbaijan, Thailand, India, so far not very effectively. But if they continue to escalate, right, if they were to hit a major Israeli target, the Israelis will hit back in a very overt way. If the Iranians can't hit Israeli targets and they keep getting hit by the Israelis, eventually they might go after an American target. It's harder for the United States to hold back. This escalation that is going on right now has the potential to suck the Americans in, even though the last thing the U.S. wants to do is a military strike. Look,
and is that Israel's goal, in your view, to suck the Americans in?
I think it absolutely is, because this is an existential issue certainly for Netanyahu. I mean, there was a recent survey in Israel just in the last week. 58% of Israelis polled said that they did not support direct Israeli strikes, unilateral Israeli strikes against Iran. But that's not Bibi Netanyahu's perspective, and he's in office, and there's no domestic threat to him right now. He certainly wants to bring the Americans in. He doesn't want to have to take these actions himself. Europeans right now are trying to plan for a nuclear Iran. They're basically saying behind the scenes to the Americans, look, we need to develop a containment strategy. What do we do in the event that the Iranians develop breakout capacity? How do we deal with this?